Welcome to another episode of the TPF podcast. My name is Khris Simonich. My partner here is Andrea Floyd. And now our podcast, we like to talk to the industry's best and brightest to learn what we can about the franchising industry. Today, we've got not only a special guest, but a different guest. John Paquette is a franchisee of Wow One Day Painting, and we're really excited to learn his journey from corporate professional to franchise owner. So John, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you. Thanks for having me on.
Yeah, we're really happy to have you on. I think you're our first guest that's actually a franchisee, John. So you're going to pave the road here, and I think you're going to have a lot of information that's going to be helpful for our guests. Let's kind of start out, and I think this happens to most people. They're out in corporate America. They have a job, and maybe they're not happy. They want to do something else. They want to build a legacy. They want a retirement plan. There's lots of different things that we hear from clients. What made you leave corporate America and come to business ownership?
I was trying to pave the way in the process of doing that for the rest of our life, our retirement, rather than the status quo, where I'm going to do this another 20 years. I'm going to end up making this much money in my 401k and blah, blah, blah. So it's the standard stuff. I just sort of had an epiphany one day and decided, is this what it's going to look like forever, or can I do something a little more? And the industry that I came from was one that, at my age, I'm now 53. When I started this thing, I was 52, and at that age in life, when you look at the next 20 years, you're like, that's pretty much, this is the time. If I'm going to do it, it's going to be now. And so I just sort of had an epiphany one day, came home, talked to my wife, and really thought about it, and started doing some research toward what does it take to franchise in particular. That was what was attractive. I didn't want to start my own machine shop. We'll get to that, but I didn't want to start my own shop and invest that much money and take that kind of a risk at this point in my life. But I knew I could build something with the right company, the right product to sell.
But let's back up a little bit. So you were in your industry for what, 20, 25 years?
Total
right?
about 30 years. Yeah, because I was a craftsman. I was a machinist first, and then a programmer. So I kind of worked my way up the ranks in the trade itself, and then I got into the sales end of that business because I grew up doing it, and I was very good at it. So and then I built a very large territory in the millions of dollars, and selling cutting tools. And so, yeah, that I did that a lot of years. I was in the sales part alone for about 22 years.
Yeah.
So long time.
Let me ask you, let's peel back the onion a little bit, because you've obviously had success for a long time, which means staying in that industry and keep doing what you're doing, that was an option.
Yes.
But now you're thinking that, hey, doing what you call the status quo, just building up the 401k, that wasn't going to be enough for you. Why not? Like, what was really driving that to make you look outside the box, so to speak?
It wasn't exciting anymore. I loved my industry very much so. I still do. If you think like I do, and everyone's got their niche in life, and for me, that's making things and understanding how things work and building things, and that's the way I am. So real technical in that way. But again, it's when you're looking down the road, you're in cruise control, right? Metaphorically speaking, and you know what this is going to look like. That you've done enough and seen enough in your industry that the newness, the excitement, and the slight risk that's involved that makes things exciting was no longer there for me. So it just became, I got to do something different. And I have a very supportive wife, and I knew that she was going to be on board. We've done a lot of things together, and so I knew we could talk about it and come to some kind of resolution. But I just got bored. I got tired of it. I felt like, I'm real good at this, but I'm going to keep being real good at this for the next 2 knows until I decide to retire. And that's not, to me, that's not exciting enough. I'm that person that likes to do something that's new and exciting and different, something you can wrap your self around and say, look what I've created. You know, it's like Castaway when Tom Hanks goes, I have created fire. That's
Right.
it.
So John, we have a lot of clients that are around your age. They're, hitting that point where they're their upper 40s, early 50s, and they're thinking, okay, do I do this the rest of my life? Just like you said. But at the same time, what is that next step? Go get a different job, start in a completely different industry. That's hard to do if you have a skill set in a certain industry. And so people stay status quo, as you mentioned. But you decided to look into franchising, and that's one where you can do anything you want. So tell us a little bit about how you found franchising and why you chose that path.
I came home from a drive and I got on the computer and I started searching franchising. Just I didn't know enough about it. I do know a few folks in my hometown that actually own some McDonald's and stuff. So there's the king of franchises right there that
Yeah.
everybody goes to. So, but how does that really work? And what I liked about the idea of franchising is that enough people theoretically have done it before you that there is a path that you can learn from other people and something you're not familiar with. And there was a sense of, I don't want to say safety in business. There's no such thing completely, of course, but something like that. You have a set of directions, if you will. The branding is already done, the marketing, the logos, all those things that you have to do yourself has already been done. And there's already a basic recipe of how to go about doing that. That's what I liked about it, is I felt like if I'm going to do something brand new, what better way to learn something brand new, whatever that is, than from a lot of other people who are doing it in their own right. So franchising seemed to be a safer path at that age, to where I felt like, yeah, you're not investing your entire life into something that if you personally screw up, you have no lifeline, you have no help, you have nobody to support you. So that's kind of what I like about it.
Yeah. So you decide that franchising is a path that certainly deserved more exploration. You land in the capable hands of our partner David Floyd here at the Perfect Franchise and start going through the perfect franchise process. Talk to us about that. What was your experience going through the perfect franchise process?
It was great. I mean, David was fantastic. I actually found the book online. Didn't know who the perfect franchise was yet, but I found the book. I thought it was exactly what I was looking for to get me started in my journey. And then in the process, reached out to David, or he reached out to me. I don't remember which way that went, to be honest. But once we met each other, he was extremely helpful in giving me the absolute crash course in franchising, because I had a lot of questions. I'm one of these guys that's, because of my background, super technical, super detail oriented. So I need to know everything. And he was really good about that. Starting at 30,000 feet and sort of dialing me in to a few options that I thought was fitting. He did some, I don't know if the right word's a personality test, if that's what it was, but something along those lines, where he asked me a lot of important questions, had me fill out some questionnaires that sort of helped him suggest the right type of industry that would work for me in franchising. And once we got into home services, it was absolutely perfect for what I'm after. And then from there, of course, we dialed it down into WOW, which is where I'm at. So he was great. He was really, really very helpful.
Yeah. So, I mean, and that's the key part of this process. And I think you hit on it, that personality test and matching. And that's something that we pride ourselves on at the Perfect Franchise, because it is really important. You want to put somebody in a business that matches their skill set. And it's really hard for someone who goes out and starts researching a franchise on their own to find that right fit. And so being able to have somebody really kind of help you work that out and figure out what's sort of best. And so walk us through that a little bit more. How'd you land in home services? There's a lot of different sectors, and we go over them with our clients. How did you land there?
Yes, it had to do with my wife and I's goals, long-term goals. We wanted to be able to really feel like we were going to be in a profit margin situation where we could really knock it out of the park, because that's important. Again, at our age, if we were 25, it may not be so important this early on, but you want to be able to try to make some money. Obviously, that we want to do this for our health. Nobody does. So
Yeah.
we wanted to make sure we found something that we could really sink our teeth into, and also that was profitable. And we didn't want to work our lives away completely. We're doing this because we're trying to gain more freedom in our life. So things like the food industry, no way. We scratched the surface on that. That was kind of a joke. Like, there's no way, things like dog grooming, whatever, it just, they weren't as powerful to us as far as what our possibilities were. And also our location. We live in Huntsville, Alabama, which is a booming area.
Yeah.
Lot of home services here. It's really common. So that's another thing, is just common sense, looking around at what you can see with your own eyes. Like, this is a good industry for us to be in here. And so there was a number of factors. It was, again, our goals, it was our location, and it was the specific profit margins and the financial goals that we had. All those things combined really that brought us to home services in a general statement.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
I want to ask you about fear, because it's a part of the process with every single client we work with, which, in the beginning, it's all fun and exciting, right? I'm considering doing something new outside my comfort zone. It's going to be exciting. It's not going to be boring like what I used to do. But as you get deeper and you start looking at actual brands, and the discussions turn more serious, and you start eliminating brands, and you focus on that one, and I might really do something here.
Yep.
Fear always at some point sets in. So talk to us about your experience with fear, and how did you manage it, and ultimately how did you overcome it to take the leap and do something totally new?
That is a really good question. We were down to basically 2 franchises. Neither of them was the one we ended up buying, and that was very fascinating. That was extremely fascinating. And with a little bit of leeway, I'll explain to you why that happened. And again, credit to David, because he definitely, what you just said, he reminded me of that, and it was confirming to me. It was validating, because yes, you get nervous and you start going, geez. Once we pull that trigger, I mean, the train has left the building at that point. So you put your, everyone finances what they do different. In our case, we finance with a HELOC, so it's our house. It's like, it's important. So as you start thinking about that, I think the confidence in the brand and the support network of the franchise, depending on your personality type, is what overcomes the fear, because it's a push pull. You've got you over here going, and then someone else kind of pulling you in, and until you lock hands and you feel like, all right, we've got this, they got me, this is gonna work. And so that's kind of what it was. And then David, based on personality and listening and understanding each other, says, there's this one. And it was, wow. And he says, based on what you're after, this might be exactly what you're looking for. And it was great. And he told me, when I understood who OTE was, I set up scheduling for discovery calls with all 3 companies at the last stage of this thing. That's what I did. So I had a spreadsheet with a bunch of questions that I was asking that were really important questions to me, coming from the business world, and understanding how important it is to believe in what you're doing. So, and at the last question on that Excel spreadsheet, I'm sure I still have it somewhere, was, what is it about your brand, this brand, that is so unique about this, that's exciting to you, to the other, validation process you're talking about the business owner. Interestingly, so Footprints Floors had, or X branding call it for this podcast, but Footprints Floors in this case, the only thing they really had was the fact that everybody said, well, it's brand recognition. It's a big brand. It's really easy. I can go in and get these contractors, to do the job, and it's really easy to sell the job. And that's all it was. It was just, it's a big name. It's like saying, well, I own a McDonald's. Okay, well, what do you like about McDonald's? That it's McDonald's. Well, that's not enough for me. If you're going to take that risk, and to your point with the fear, to overcome that fear, you better really believe in what you're doing. So when I asked that question of the WOW franchisees, 100% of them had the same vibe, which was, it's what we're doing for the customer. It's like magic. They absolutely lose their minds because painters, generally speaking, aren't like we are. So that, to me, that was that different factor. That was that thing that I needed to hear. And that's what it was. Because I felt like, all right, I can sell that. That I can sell. It's something different that I can get excited about. In business, you always have to have points of difference. So if I know what those points of difference are, I can overcome the sale. And that's so important. And I can make my team believe in it. And all those things that you have to do in leadership. You have to have that thing that you really believe in, that you can get others on board and succeed. So that was it. I mean, that's honestly how he kind of got into the short rows with me, was during the validation process.
And you love painting, right? Coming into this, you were like, I just want to be a painter. Were you thinking that the whole time?
You could not have paid me enough money 10 years ago to tell me I'd own a painting company. Not in a million years. So that's kind of interesting. No, I don't like painting. Interesting. But I do like the fact that we're selling that to these homeowners, because for them, the finished product is the beauty of it. The actual process, that's the nuts and bolts of it. It doesn't really matter that much to me. What matters is that we're selling something people want. That's it. The rest you can deal with. You don't have to love it. I firmly believe that. I did love what I did before. But again, okay, so that just means you're going to do that for the rest of your life. It doesn't, there's a lot of things I love. I'm a musician. There's a ton of things that people like to do. But in business, you have to have the thing people want. Otherwise, you're not making any revenue. So, anyway.
So, John, you talked a lot about why you landed with WOW, and I think the things I'm hearing is sort of their unique value differentiator, which we had them on, so everyone who's listened to that knows they do one-day painting, so in and out in one day, which I think is great. Heard a little bit about sort of the backing of the brand family, O2E brands, and having that backing behind a really large brand, and then just sort of culturally, you felt like somebody's going to really like this experience. And that seems like what really drove you to this particular brand. So take us sort of through, what did the first few months look like as you onboard? Tell us a little bit about that. What did you spend your time doing? What were the challenges you had?
Well, if this is going to be an honest podcast, it was terrifying.
Yeah.
It was terrifying.
Yep.
Not in a bad way though. But it was terrifying. It just is. I mean, my wife and I would lay there at night and go, can you believe we're doing this? Like, we're actually doing this. We started at a time of the year. We're just finishing up our first year. We're doing very well, which I'm happy to say. But along the way, sales is all about, and anybody from corporate America knows this, it's common sense, but if you don't have revenue, you don't have a company. If you don't have customers, you don't have revenue. It's a really simple that's it. So we're like, how do we get our name out there? And this is where the franchise part really comes in nicely. O2E Brands is extremely good about support, especially in the beginning, and helping you launch your company. They've really got a nice method on that. And of course, you have the leeway to do your own thing as well. And so we decided to go into the Fall Home and Garden Show here in town, which was different, believe it or not, even for WOW. That's something that not a lot of folks did. In fact, we heard from the franchise, like, well, it's a little early for that. I don't know if you guys want to do that. And we just felt like, it's only, we joined a couple of networking groups and things like that. So we got a good discount on it. It was the fall show. Let's see what happens. Wow. Huntsville, Alabama is where it's at with the Fall Home and Garden Show, let me tell you. And we left that thing with 47 qualified leads from one show, from a 2-day situation. So, we're getting the van, we're getting our van, we're getting the the truck and the car wrapped. We are 100% branded all the time. We don't leave that. We can't leave the house without a branded car because our cars we own are branded and wrapped. So we just hit the ground absolutely running all things wow all the time. And we hired, our first team that we hired. We were at a position, and this is part of the terrifying part. You just have to overcome this. But when you're doing something new, since you yourself are not the expert yet, when you hire people, you are at the mercy of hoping you're hiring the right people. So you can be pretty sure that your first team, you asked kind of how that went. Our first team was a freaking train wreck, to be honest. It was.
Yeah.
It was a train wreck, and we had to go through and quickly, you got to maneuver quickly. That's just the way it is. But again, that's also the exciting part of it. Doing something like this is not for the faint of heart. Anybody that's watching this right now knows exactly what I'm talking about. But part of that excitement is going through that. We were just talking about this the other day, where we are now versus where we are then in just 1 year. It's just staggering. It's absolutely unbelievable. We're sitting here going, I can't believe we're experts in this business at this point. We're going to become more experts, but we're experts enough now. I just did a count the other day. I've done, after yesterday, 283 estimates so far.
Wow.
We have done 140 jobs so far.
Wow.
Nice.
And that's a lot. I mean, that's really a lot. And especially with the revolving crew, we finally got a crew, a solid team of 5 with a great project manager and some really good, dedicated painters, which they have the right vibe that is wow. They have the right enthusiasm and stuff. So if you're good at leadership as a person, and you are coming from corporate America, whatever, and you're used to that, you're used to helping people see their potential. It's not that that's really a big part of this, and it's a lot of fun. Is trying to lead that team of people. Get rid of the bad apples, keep the good apples, and help them on their journey. And then you're going to make it on your journey. So,
yeah, John, this has been great, and congratulations on your success. As we look to wrap this up, 2 real quick questions for you.
yes,
The
sir.
first is, if you had one piece of advice for somebody who is just now looking at franchises, like you were a year ago, what would you tell them?
Go for it. Go for it. Do it. Absolutely. You're going to be nervous and everything else, but everything has a level of risk to it. There's nothing worth doing that doesn't have a level of risk. So don't be foolish in it, but go for it. Find a way to get that done and just get on the train and do it. Find that thing and do it, because it's really different, but it's really cool not working for somebody. It's like, you have the power of your life in your hands every single day, which is pretty cool.
Yeah. Same question. What if you were to talk to somebody who is just embarking on their first year? They bought a franchise, and the word you just used a couple of minutes ago was terrifying.
Yep.
So they're also terrified. They said, "Are we really doing this?"
Yep.
What do you tell them? What's that one piece of advice to them?
It gets better. Just stick to your guns. Remember why you're doing it, and take the liberty to be creative. That's so important. I cannot overstate that one. We, even within our franchise, within WOW, you have to stay within the lines. Of course, it's a brand. You need to do that. So as far as logos and all those things, but take the liberty of being creative, because every market's different, and I'm sure that it's that way with every franchise. I can't imagine it's just painting. Our busy season's different than some of the other ones because we're in the Southeast. The weather is terrible. This is exterior season for most of the country. Not so much for us. It's been 110 degrees. It's humid. We can't paint outside. So it's not exterior season for us. That comes in the fall, strangely, but it's true. Where everybody else starts slowing down in the fall. So you got to take risks, and you got to evaluate your market and say, this is my company, and own that. I think sometimes people with franchising get that, well, we have to do everything the franchise tells me to do. That's true, you do, but not 100%. It is your company. It's your money. So you got to be creative and find a way to hit those markets maybe, and then you all talk to each other so people learn from each other. We've learned things from other franchisees. They've learned things from us. And so it's, yeah, I would say have the guts to stick to it. It does get better. It does get better. You get over that, oh my gosh, phase. And then you're into, okay, what now phase. And then you're into, this is going pretty well phase. And then, okay, it's getting slow. We got to do this. But you start learning, you navigate, just like anything else.
Yeah.
So
Great advice. Great advice. Thank you.
Yeah.
John, this has been so great. I think being able to have a franchisee come through, and one that's actually gone through the perfect franchise process, I think is really helpful for our clients to hear. And I think as you think through your journey of corporate America to something that you never thought you would do, painting wasn't on the radar, but it made sense. And now you're looking at potentially in your first year being rookie of the year, I'm hearing, which is amazing.
Yes.
And so, that's the type of thing where we see somebody comes into this, can I do this? Can I open a franchise? What does it look like? And I think you hit on some of the main points, which is find a good business partner, find that brand that makes sense, look for the business that matches your skill set, and know that it's your business. You have to put that effort in to make it successful, and you'll get there. The first year is going to be challenging. It always is, but there's so many benefits to business ownership. I think all those points that you've made today really helps clients that are trying to figure out, I'm a little afraid. What can I do? I want to do something different. I think you've really showed them that there's a different path, and it can be anything. And you just have to sort of find that right fit. So for those of you listening, if you're considering franchising as a potential path to business ownership, remember there's no one size fits all that suits everyone. Even so, there's certainly a franchise out there that's perfect for you. To explore your options and find that perfect match, please visit us at theperfectfranchise.com by clicking on Let's Talk. You can schedule time to speak with one of the consultants on our team at The Perfect Franchise. We look forward to connecting with you again on the next episode. Until then, take care.